to your mom's, and I loved it. By the way, I love Jennifer. You know that already, and I think she's an awesome coach and a better person. So I got the the vibe for it's pretty relaxed. I got about a half an hour, so let's go.
Nice. All
And let
right.
me help you. Hopefully your athletes are all listening to this, and I hope that what we can do is kind of sort of encourage them as well, and Northern California swimmers can gain some benefits, or anybody that happens to dive into this. So I'm excited that you're doing this, by the way, because I do think it's takes some guts to do this. So very cool that you're doing this, and uh, I encourage Brett Hawk really strongly to do this, and several other people like go man, like do stuff right now. So you're already doing it. Very cool.
Nice. Well, thank you. And yeah, we'll record it and then I'll send it out to the kids. Right now it's just me and you, but they'll definitely see it and we'll cut up the good stuff too. Um,
Cool.
so first, with every story, let's just start from the beginning. And as far as tell us your journey from where you started in swimming.
Well, I started in swimming by not making the baseball team. So at 15 years old, I was going to be a baseball player. I was in uh, 10th grade and was planning on being a big baseball star in high school when I got to 10th grade. And I had all-star patches down my sleeves, and I was, a good baseball player. And went out for high school baseball in Miami. And as you can imagine, in Miami, there's lots of good baseball players. The Cuban community is amazing baseball players. I really didn't know that, but so when I went out for my team, and my high school was 70% Cuban, so it was a lot of Cuban athletes. I went up to the coach's door on Monday, and I thought I had a great tryout. They threw 5 pitches at us. So in baseball, you can imagine this if you did this in swimming equivalent, where you grew up, developed, played with passion your whole life from the time you're a little tiny kid, 7, 8 years old in baseball till you're 15. Then you go out for the high school team. The tryout was 5 pitches thrown to you. That was the whole tryout. And you try to hit all 5 pitches. I thought I hit 4 out of the 5 line shots out to the outfield. So I thought, okay, that's good. And then they time you to first base. That was the entire tryout. So, and
Wow.
then that determined if you were going to get to continue in this sport, because there's no little league for 10th graders. So my baseball career ended when my name wasn't on the list of the coaches on the coach's door on Monday. So that was it. So at 15 years old, I didn't have a sport literally, and I wasn't a swimmer at the time. I was only a baseball player, football player, and I wasn't doing any other sports. But during that time, my whole life, I'm from Miami, Florida, and my dad's father was a commercial fisherman. So we grew up on weekends going out into the ocean, really to go get food. We were, I won't say we were a poor family, but we were definitely lower sort of middle income. My dad was a firefighter. And so what we do on weekends is get in our little 18-foot boat. We go out to what we call the blue water, which was the Gulf Stream, and we would fish for hours and hours. Then after the fishing sort of got less than ideal, we would drive in and go spearfishing for the rest of the day. And so we would bring home often a boat load full of food called fish. And during lobster season, we'd try to get lobster as well. And Dad was really good at knowing where to go, because his father was a commercial fisherman. This is before GPSs, so you'd line up a hotel with a buoy, let's say, and that's how you'd figure out where you would go to, look for fish, or a particular reef, let's say. So that's how I grew up. I grew up sort of on weekends. We would go diving, and from that, how it relates to swimming is that I learned water that way. I didn't learn water by swimming laps. I learned water by spending my weekends, going down 30 feet, chasing a grouper that goes under the rock, and then trying to get the grouper out while I'm still holding my breath. And it's a very sort of natural way to learn how to swim. I did swim as probably a 7, 8, 9-year old in a little summer league, sort of a summer league type team. In fact, the coach is Bob Carl. He's still alive, still coaching in Miami, and he still remembers all those days very fondly. But that was it. Other than that, went out for swimming in 10th grade, and in 10th grade, in my very first race in my very first meet. I did the 100 freestyle, and I went 123 in the 100-yard freestyle as a 10th grader. So not exactly a time that if I was up in your neck of the woods, you'd be saying, "Hey, you need to come on my team right now because you're 123 in the 100-yard freestyle." So but I fortunately, the team was just almost purely a high school team. So they gave everybody a chance. And by my junior year, I broke a minute in 100-yard freestyle, and then by my senior year, I got down to a 58 in the 100 backstroke, and then I did this thing that I wouldn't do my first 2 years. It's called shaving down. So my senior in high school is the first time I ever shaved down, and I dropped from 505 to 450 in the 500 freestyle at the state meet, and that gave me a chance to go to junior college, Indian River Community College, where I was coached by Dick Wells and then Jim Montrella. And Jim Montrella, I would say, to some degree, set my trajectory. Jim and Bev were very highly influential on me, and they're down in Mission Viejo now, and they're just amazing people. He was an Olympic coach. We were real fortunate to have him in Indian River. And then he sort of set it up to where by the time I finished at Indian River, I was recruited by Richard Quick, who had just replaced Eddie Reese at Texas. Or excuse me, Eddie Reese went to Texas, and Richard Quick became the new coach at Auburn. So I was very fortunate as a 53 100-yard backstroker after junior college, which wasn't still that fast, to get a chance to be recruited by Richard Quick on the promise of Jim Montrella that this David Marsh guy was going to get a lot faster. And part of that's because I was about 6'3" and about 150 pounds. I mean, and so I didn't have any sort of muscle on me yet. And Jim Montrella definitely believed in me, and then Richard gave me a chance. And in that first year at Auburn, I went from being the 5th 100 backstroker to the first one, and ended up being a NCAA finalist in my first year at Auburn, where I dropped down to 50-point low. So I was competed at pretty high level from then on. And so that's my background in swimming, which I think is important for young kids especially to hear that story, because it is possible that there'll be a window of time where you'll sort of snap into the sport. And because swimming is, has this unnatural aspect to it, where if you're a swimmer, it's not like running or other sports like that, where swimming is something you have to get a feel for the water, understanding of the water, and then figure out how to use that to gain propulsion and then be competitive. So I was already competitive because I was a football player and a baseball player, so I had the competitive thing down well, but I didn't have the skills of swimming, but I gained them really fast because I had a background in spending time in the water. And I know we'll get to pandemic here in a little bit, but a lot of my guys right now that are in the middle of this pandemic, they're really using surfing, and they're really using the ocean as a way to sort of grow during this pandemic. And I really do feel like the more ways we can experience water, several of them tried the prone paddling today with trying to get up on their knees, and it's on Instagram, so they can check, your swimmers can check it out. But they weren't very good at it at first. They were falling off the knee board and all that. But after a while, they got the hang of it, and they were able to become. I was challenging them. Hey guys, become more aquatic. Figure out ways to do things in the water that you couldn't do before. And so that's what I sort of did in my journey in swimming through high school and then through junior college and college. And that really set the foundation for my coaching, because I've always been a coach that believes that somebody with raw materials that has great motivation and great desire can achieve amazing things. And so that I'm really big on, I don't give up very well on athletes who have the drive and the desire to do the things it takes. It's more frustrating, as as a coach, and my experience is the one that's real talented, super good, they get fast really easy, and then they just don't ever learn how to sort of dig into the nitty gritty and do what it takes to elevate to the next level, because they're not willing to do the work it takes. So I'd much rather have someone that's willing to do the stuff. And that's what I did. I had the, there was times through high school where, I mean, I only swam high school. I didn't swim for a club team till my senior year. And, but I'd heard that some of the swimmers swim 2 practices per day. And nobody did that in high school. So I would go with a friend of mine. We would jump the fence at the YWCA to go swim in the morning before school, because apparently that's what the really fast swimmers did. And we didn't have a coach or anything. We just, we would sneak into the pool and swim some laps, and we'd climb over the fence to get back out and go to school. And I think it really set my my foundation. And I love sports is what I loved to do when I was growing up, and that was the thing I sort of attached my self-image to. That's really the thing I was good at. I wasn't very good at much other stuff, and that carried over into coaching as well. So once I started coaching, I went at it like I did my swimming. I went 100% in. I did all I could to learn all I could about sports science, psychology. Even though I was a business major that didn't plan on coaching, I once I knew I was going to be a coach, I dove into it 100%.
That's really interesting. Is there anything like detail wise, did you work on your technique? How did you, like, one, you're an amazing late bloomer story, but how did you cultivate yourself, your technique? What was it that got you to continue to improve over each stage?
Well, interesting story is that in the first 3 years of high school, and in my first 3 years of college. So when I started swimming in 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, first year of college, second year of college, third year of college, I had different head coaches. So I had to take a little bit from all the different coaches and try to learn what I could. But in all those cases, when I was doing it, I did believe in my coaches. So during that window of time, I think they all gave me different things that they were good at as coaches. And some of them were a little more technicians. I mean, Jim Montrell, there were times we were doing 20,000 meters per day and just sort of crazy stuff, but I still believed in them. And so it probably gave me an aerobic background that I probably needed because I was such a late bloomer. And going back at it now, I would never give anybody 20,000 meters, but I might give them a little bit more background if I felt like in the long haul that's what they needed. Also, I sort of went through the range of events. When I was finished high school, I was sort of recruited as a 500 freestyler. So I was sort of put in that category coming into college. So I swam the 4 IM, the mile, and the 500 freestyle at junior college nationals. And then by the time I'd finished junior college and moved to Auburn, I ended up being a 100 backstroker. I mean, a full-on sprint backstroker. And in 1980 at the Olympic trials, our fake Olympic trials, when we boycotted the Olympics, my time was 6th in the world in the 100-meter backstroke. And that was my main event by far. And I wasn't even good in the 200 backstroke comparatively. So I think the thing that really was the thing I would say that I did was I just believed in my coaches. Honestly, I've seen video of my technique now. It wasn't very good. I mean, I overreached big time in backstroke. My head was too high. I mean, there was all kinds of things I'd fix if I was coaching myself now. But what I did do was I was really good at dry land. I was probably bet from my baseball, football background, and I took a lot of pride in that. So, and I got much stronger. I mean, I went from 150 to about 185 pounds when I was at Auburn, so I became much more of a man, and I was able to perform at a higher level, and then use my athleticism to carry into swimming. And I think that's probably what helped me.
Nice. So how did you transition into coaching? Where did you find that passion? What caused you to go into coaching?
Yeah, great question. I didn't plan on being a coach. I majored in business, like I said, and I wasn't planning on going into coaching. I was planning on going into business and, sort of going that route, and being a management training employee was sort of the thing you did back in those days if you're a business major. And my senior year, Richard Quick, my mentor and my ultimate, the guy that really was the most influential man in my life, he asked if I wanted to coach the club team at the college we were at. Now, in that window of time, I'd already started helping the college team with recruiting. I'd already helped the college team with doing anything I could do to help the college team be better in my fifth year. But he asked me, could we take over the club? And I went down to the club practice the very first day, and there were like 80 kids in the water. I was the only coach, and in lane 8 I had like 8 and unders that could only do one lap at a time. And in lane 1 I had senior national qualifiers. Jay Beeson and Brad Dillon. They were senior national qualifiers. So I was the only one working the whole deck with 80 people in the water, and I just thought that's what coaching was. And what really hooked me was when I went to the first meet. And I went to the first meet with a variety of the swimmers and sat in the bleachers with a couple of the parents, and I could just sense the impact I was having on their life, and it was really a quick driver for me. And honestly, the first day I went on the deck and started coaching, as I recall, I liked it more than I ever liked swimming myself. I like the idea of helping these different people to get better and open their vision, like, to what's capable, because so many people, they put a cap on what they're capable of, and as a coach we can unleash that. And now it needs to happen authentically, where we really believe they can accomplish something pretty special. But that's what really turned me on. But I'd seen that happening at the college level, because I was all the while I was coaching the club, I was also helping the college team, and I was recruiting for the college team and involved in that. And in that window of time, by the way, I was making $6,000 a year. I never could have done that if my parents hadn't bought a house in the neighboring town of Opelika near Auburn, where I lived in a 3-bedroom house, probably about 800 square feet, with 3 roommates and 2 big dogs. So, we just made it work. Yeah, we just made it work, man. And it was, and all of us were swimming people. So we'd sit around talking about that on weekends, and it's sort of what we did. And we just dove into it. And honestly, the biggest number one thing for me is transitioning from swimmer to coach was I had the number one mentor you could have literally on the planet at that time, Richard Quick. And Richard ended up being, a 4-time or 5-time Olympic coach, 13-time NCAA champion from 3 different colleges. Nobody had ever done that before. And it's because the guy's an amazing human being. So I was blessed, 100% blessed, to be there at the right time in the right place. Now, I also saw the development of Rowdy Gaines all this window of time, because I was on the team with Rowdy, and then I saw Rowdy go from being a good swimmer to unbeatable for about a 5-year span. Now, unfortunately, that was the 1980 window, where he would definitely won the 100 freestyle, definitely won the 200 freestyle, definitely won 3 more medals, maybe even competed in the 400 freestyle back then. But he was unbeatable in that era. And so I saw that happen in a very visceral sense, where beginning as a swimmer, and then when I transitioned to a coach, I was actually getting to be part of, getting to coach him a little bit. And so that was highly impactful too, because, I was able to learn, what it's like to go from really good to the best in the globe at a very young age.
That's interesting. I've got to ask you a question on Richard Quick. You mentioned him twice. What do you think is the most impactful thing, or that, actually, I'm going to rephrase that. What is it about him that drew you to him and made him so amazing?
Well, he had a saying that I actually didn't have when I was with him, but he formed the saying at Stanford, and then back at Auburn, when Rowdy and I helped convince him to go back to Auburn for one more run before he fully retired, because he had retired from Stanford. And it was believe in belief. And to me, that sort of confused me a little bit, even when he sort of came up with it. But I think it's exactly Richard Quick. So Richard was the kind of guy that if he believed in you, and you believed in your skill, and you believed in your ability, there really wasn't a limit with Richard. And he would set the standard of training at that level. So he would match that, if that makes sense. I mean, honestly, today I was working with one of my pro swimmers in the endless pool nearby here, because that's one of the places we can get into. And it was Dylan Carter, actually. Dylan's swam at USC. He was a great swimmer for college. I just told Dylan, I said, Dylan, during the pandemic, you've improved enormously because you're coming to practice. You're changing your stroke because we're really working hard on sort of lightening, making his stroke more light in the water because he's just used to pounding and grinding and muscling the water. We're trying to soften him up a little bit and feel the water more. And he's really done a nice job of that. And I said, you've devoted yourself to, this path of progress. I said, what I need you to do now is start believing in yourself more and start advocating for yourself more and start asking for my time more. And because I will give you the time and you deserve the time now of whatever I can give you. And so I think that's the kind of thing that Richard would do. He would, if you were someone who he sensed like Rowdy as a person who believed in what he would present to you and the challenges he'd present, he was a master at that. And whether it be Jenny Thompson or Summer Sanders or Leah Lovelace, eventually, it became a little bit of conflict even with Dara Torres and Jenny Thompson. But, people that Richard Quick worked with, they would go above and beyond, especially in magic moments. And I was standing behind him when Misty Hyman won the 200 fly, at the Olympics in 2000 over in Sydney, Australia, when she upset, the Madam Butterfly of the time, Susie O'Neill. And he did it by making a very aggressive and risky move of at the meet within days before a race. Misty was known for being an underwater kicker in the early days when people weren't doing that as much. She was the best at it. He actually took 2 or 3 kicks off of her turns right before the finals of the race. He was measuring that during the race. He said, yeah, let's take some kicks off. He took a huge chance like that. And again, I was sitting in the front seat experiencing this as a young coach. By then I was coaching and I had a couple of make the Olympic team, so I was on the Olympic staff with him. And I saw this all breaking down and happening. And I was like, are you sure, Richard? You want to take her number one weapon away? And he just had a sense like that to do that. And I saw him. The most important thing though is he's also willing to be bold enough to do it and do the right thing. And so I think that's something that sort of has stuck in my mind all the time is how do you at the end of the day, it's helping the athletes be the best they can be. So reaching their full potential, their true full potential. And to do that, sometimes we coaches have to intervene. Sometimes we have to pull away and let them experience the failure or let them be the hero of their own story. And we don't need to be the hero. So I think that's what effective coaching is. I learned a lot of that from Richard by watching it happen, in front of my eyes.
Wow, that is extremely interesting. It sounds like he instilled belief and he set high expectations. I could go down that rabbit hole, but this is about you. So I'm going to ask a different question.
He never wrote a book though, and he didn't do any podcasts. So we needed a lot more of his history before he died. He died of a brain tumor, and it's really sad because he didn't get a lot of stuff recorded like this, honestly. So thank you for getting this on tape and in honoring Richard like this.
Yeah, I think it was I don't know who said it, but it was one of his swimmers that mentioned a comment, and they're like, they basically would do anything for him. So there must have been something about him that really inspired people.
Yeah, he's very passionate, very charismatic, and he would try things. He would do things, and he'd bring in, he brought in, Bill Boomer, and by him bringing Bill Boomer into swimming at the level he did, he changed the sport. I mean, Bill Boomer affected hundreds, maybe even thousands of coaches with his unique thinking. Well, had Richard not brought him into the Stanford team and allowed him access the way he did, we probably don't have, Bill Boomer and Milton Elms and this whole the whole sort of era of sort of slowing down and considering positioning in the water before trying to power through the water. I mean, that was really, Bill Boomer, by Richard Quick's, introduction to our sport at the level he did was what he did. And he was, he insisted that Bill Boomer come to the Olympics with us. And he did things like that were pretty cutting edge at that time.
Nice. Yeah. That's amazing. I'd love to hear more about him. But I'm going to ask you 2 more questions because I know we're running out of time. So first, as far as every time I've been around you, you kind of have a sense of peace about you. My mother described you as being very professional, um, efficient, and like coming up with different segmentations, whether it's sprint group, distance group. But I honed in on, I think it's about like your personality. When I talk to you, it's it's calm, it's peace, it's professionalism. So how do you describe yourself and your coaching style?
Uh, you know, I sort of leave that to other people to describe. I would say, first of all, Jennifer is one of my, favorite people in the sport, and I always thought she was an amazing coach. Back when I knew her, back in when I was in the Southeast with her, we would have great conversations about stroke technique. Your mom was one of the best, was and is one of the best coaches. I married Kristen Burke, now Kristen Marsh. She's a lot like that, where she was an amazing coach. She worked out in California, and we ended up getting married. She had, we had 3 kids, and she like your mom said on the podcast that you did with her. And by the way, I suggest everybody go check out that podcast. It's awesome. That that she turned her attention to her children and had to spend time on wanted to spend time raising her children. And I would say that the thing for me in terms of turning the microscope on me and what my what sort of formulates the way I think is I think it's because of that background I already discussed that I believe so much more is possible for almost everybody in the sport, because nobody's natural in the water. And, when we get in the water as human beings, we're friggin' uncoordinated. We're like, fish are laughing at us for trying to move through the water. We can't move through the water. I mean, it's like my guys today trying to get on that knee board thing. They're falling off. They're just foolish. They can't handle it. Well, the reality is we're not good in the water. So we have to, so when we figure out how to get better, I believe there's a sort of a critical moment where you sort of figure it out and you sort of get unleashed. Now, I believe there's a way to do that. And with club teams and watching your team up there in Santa Cruz and up that in that area, I believe that you guys, it's clear that you guys are valuing technique with the training that you're doing. And I really believe that if you're taught young to swim technically really well, and then your training doesn't destroy your technique, that I think that allows you to launch into the future. Now, at the same time, you've got to believe in yourself. And so the system, not only of yourself believing, but also coaches believing in you, needs to come in. Now you need to earn that. Like, you don't get to have everybody believe in you if you're not being believable. And at the same time, there's two sort of personalities of me. There's the team coach that I was at Auburn when I was coaching a team. Then it was about what's the result we're searching for? And this may be the nexus of what you're asking, really. What's the result we're searching for? Okay, now how do we get to that result? And when I was at Auburn, I would say, we won 12 NCAA championships. And in that window of time, my staff probably got tired of me saying, what are we doing right now? Where are we spending our energy? And if there's areas of spending energy that isn't helping us win NCAA championships, then stop. Stop doing that thing and go do things that cause us to win NCAA championships. So that would be one of the keys for me, would be hire great assistant coaches so that I could empower them to coach segments of the team, and that segment of the team would feel highly valued by those coaches and and it didn't have to be at David Marsh. It was about Auburn University at the time. And then as a coach of professional athletes, it's somewhat the same way. It's like, tell me what you want to accomplish and tell me what you're willing to do to accomplish that. And I'm going to be a partner with you. But I'm not going to lead this now. As a professional swimmer, I'm not leading you. I'm going to be part of your journey. I'm going to remind you and be honest with you when I don't believe you're doing the things you need to do to accomplish the thing you're saying. So if somebody says they want to make a medal in the Olympic Games, I know what making a medal in the Olympic Games is. I know how to get there. I know what it looks like when people are getting there. And if their trajectory is toward that, I have a very good feel for that. That's just from my experience and that kind of thing. I have a feel for that. If they're not, then at some point I have to be honest with them. And if they can't adjust the trajectory, then they need to change their goal. Then you're leaving it to luck. Maybe you'll luck into Olympic medal because the event was slow, or maybe you'll luck in the Olympic team because there was the 600 freestyler, 200 freestyler happened to be slow in this Olympic trials. But, when you have the skills and you don't work toward, do everything you can toward that outcome, to me, it's sort of shame on you. And so that's sort of what I do now is I think of what outcome we're trying to get to, and then we just try to direct things toward that. And I think the thing you're seeing in me that maybe gives me peace is that experience. Over time. Early in my career, I was like a hellion a little bit. I was, if you ask my young teams, and in fact, we had a Zoom call with my 90 to 94 team. I was a hellion to them. I was screaming, yelling, throwing them against the wall, things you can't do nowadays. I was doing back in those days to get their attention that, look, you guys aren't good right now, and we're gonna get a lot better. Auburn's gonna be a highly competitive team. We're gonna win SEC championships one day, and when we did that, it caused some dissension because a lot of the athletes that I inherited when I came there, they weren't going there to win SEC championships. They're going to get a scholarship and have a good time. And that, and then I would say my personal growth, my interpersonal growth, in that window of time of the 90s into the later 90s, I got married, had children, became a Christian. So faith became a much bigger part of my life. And then I was, then it was really became more about my staff and the chemistry of my staff. It wasn't just about me and making things happen like it was early in my career. It was more about the chemistry of the whole group. And I don't know if you're watching the Last Stand with Michael Jordan right now, but that's been a great reminder of a guy like Michael Jordan. I love that Michael, seemed like his biggest passion was when his team won the NBA titles. It wasn't about whether he won the scoring title, was the MVP. It was about, did my team win? That was the, 6 out of 6 championships he competed in, they won. That's pretty amazing. So to me, that's the thing that I'm looking for when I'm coaching. And I think as I'm getting to be an older coach now, I used to be a young coach, now I'm 61, so I'm older coach. Now I'm looking to be partners with people who want to be the best. And I do have a club team here. We have a club team called Stingrays, and we have 45 swimmers on the club team. And, we do the same thing with them is that we try to have coaches around them that, value technique first. And when they, and we ask them what their ambitions are and try to help them reach their ambitions. Most of them is to get to a good college. And that's a very good ambition for a high school kid, is to try to get to a better and better college. And to do that, you got to swim fast. And you need to get good grades for the most part. And those are things that most of the athletes understand, especially out here in California, to get in the UC system. To say they need to have, they need to do very well academically. And if they want to go to Stanford, they want to go to Michigan or a major academic institution, they have to have the academics, and then if they want to be also a great swimmer, get recruited by, NC State or Florida or Georgia or Auburn, they need to do, they need to swim fast to get the coach's attention, and nothing like that to do that. So those are things that we try to do overall. So with the pros, with the club team, and then just some of the, the personal stuff I'm doing with, sort of private advising and stuff like that I do on the side through Marsh Swim Academy. Those are things where I get touches with people that aren't on my team that I might do calls like this and Skype with them and try to give them good advice.
Yeah, that's amazing. We're gonna talk a little bit about the future, and you mentioned your swimmer who has been doing the endless pool or the swim spot. I don't know how you guys have it set up. Sounds like he's improving his technique or improving in some way. Where do you see coaching during COVID going? What is the future of coaching right now with everything's kind of turned upside down?
Yeah, I think coaching right now, unfortunately, is really organizing how your team is going to sort of survive the transition back to normality. Because the problem we're having out there, and I don't think a lot of parents and athletes understand this, is that as you go back from where we were to where we want to be again, you know, we're hearing from, you know, health authorities and people like this that they don't want more than one person in the lane or two people in the lane, or they want us physical distancing right now. And the problem is one person in the lane doesn't work in an economic model. So a lot of coaches, including me with my club team and even with the professional team, to secure pool space, I'm having to run the numbers to figure out, okay, how do we do this with a financial structure that actually works remotely within what most parents or athletes, you know, understood as a sort of commonplace. Well, that's changing right now. So as a coach, we're having to quickly become creative businessmen and women, and I think that's something that, you know, we need help from swimming enthusiasts. We need help from the parents on our clubs and the athletes to understand that yeah, to make this work, guys, it's going to have to be a team effort to do this. I also think there's an amazing opportunity. Now, I'll give you an example. Leanna Mack, who's from up your way a little bit more, she's a swimmer at UCLA, probably the best swimmer UCLA's ever had on the women's side, or one of the best, certainly. She has proven to be super motivated, doing all the things she can do, and she's training down here with me. And she went home for about 8 days just recently. She swims for Brian up at Osprey, and they do a great job with their club team there, and loves, you know, we've stole a lot of his drills and things. But she took 8 days off of the water completely, and she'd been training consistently really well. When she came back, we said, okay, just work on technique for the first several sessions. Just break down, swim the technique we've been working on all fall. Well, one thing we're trying to do is in her freestyle, she puts her hand in. When she puts her hand in, she scoops outside like this. She does a big swoop like that. And we're saying, look, just drive it in and keep it moving forward into the catch. And I said, don't take any strokes that aren't this. And so when she took that time off and then came back, she sort of had, her nervous system had sort of been unsensitized, I guess, to this. So the new pattern was going to be hand in and right through. So that's the only way she did it. So she needed to use paddles to do that. She did that. So I think one of the things with this virus is people have taken time out of the water or aren't having a typical swimming experience, is that athletes have a chance to go back in the water and sort of redo their technique. And this may be a one-time in your career chance to do redo technique, because your nervous system doesn't know swimming really well again. And, you know, when you're grinding day in and day out and you get in the water and you do, you know, the first 2,000 of practice, you know, your hands and feet are going where they naturally go. You're not thinking about it a whole lot. They just do it. Well, as you go back and you have maybe an hour to be in the water, you're going to value that. You're going to think about what you're doing, and you're going to swim more intentionally. And hopefully your coaches are going to say, you know, this is exactly the way I want you to swim. Don't ever swim without a driving 6-beat kick. You know, breathe rhythmic, breathe low, set your catch high. What's that look like? Well, you know, we're going to take time to focus on what that looks like, and then slowly come back. So I think we have a chance right now in our sport for the eager coaches out there and the eager programs to really jump on that moment as we transition back into our routines. And then as we add more time, if we can really value that time, because we don't need to hurry back to do a lot of super hard training. I mean, youngsters ought to be doing their hard training by walking out the front door and going for a 3-mile run as fast as you can. You know what I mean? There's other ways to condition. You know, what we can do in the water for you guys as coaches is we can teach you how to swim very efficiently. And that's what you need to be doing as you come back from COVID and you start moving back into training routines, which hopefully Governor Newsom will loosen up here real soon and allow us to get back in pools and at least, you know, get some swimming back in pools.
Yeah, absolutely. And just from a health perspective for the kids out there, that they need to be doing something for their bodies, which also helps them mentally. So hopefully,
well, they also need their friends. I mean, you know, the swimming is the friendships, and probably where you are and I am, we have beaches right here. So our kids are probably, I think some of our kids are getting out on the beaches together. And I know tonight, Mariusz, one of our prosumers, said, "Hey, meet me down at, Tourmaline about to surf tonight." So there's several of them went down there and surfed together. So they're getting some of that social interaction. But a lot of swimmers aren't getting that social interaction, and that was sort of their groove in life, was to be around these people that they were around at the swimming pool. And now they're home with their parents, and they're home with their homeschool, their school situations online, and it's just it's got to feel lonely. So I'm eager to get people back. One of the things I'm suggesting to coaches is that as you bring people back, bring them back in peer groups. Like, don't, not necessarily just by how fast they are in the water, but if you have a 13-year-old that's super fast and a group of 18-year-olds that are more of a peer together, 16 to 8-year-olds, 18-year-olds, maybe bring the peer groups back together initially, and because that's what they really probably have missed more than just the swimming and the training and saying hello to their coach. It's like, is that seeing their friends and swimming with their friends. So, and we're going to have to, for a little while, swim in little groups and little pods of people as we go forward. I mean, today I was swimming in the bay with some of our pro swimmers, and there's another club team, Coronado Swim Association, was out there swimming too. They were coming 4 at a time, but you could see it was great interaction with the kids. Well, there's also water polo was blowing it for everybody because they're in there like 24 people all clumped together. So I'm like, dadgummit, water polo, would you please not have the beach closed for us? But the swimmers know what they're doing, and swimmers are I think understand that as they come back, if they can get an hour in the water, they'll begin to make progress. And if they've trained hard, they've done the dry land work that all coaches are sending out right now, or searching online for dry land work that they can do, or walk out the front door and go run hard. There's lots of ways to physically continue to gain endurance. And a lot of these kids, you're going to see when they come back to your program, you're going to see some of them grew 2 or 3 inches, and some of them's wingspan's longer. Some of them are stronger than they used to be. There's a real chance that some of them are going to be way better swimmers in some window of time because their bodies have grown. They're more healthy now. They've taken good care of themselves, and partly because they're washing their hands now and they're not getting sick. So and they're eager now. There's another level of eagerness, and we cannot underplay the value of an eager athlete, and honestly, I think an eager coach to arrive to a pool and be there with full intention rather than participation. And I think that's one of the things I think we might see improve in this transition.
Nice. And yes, in Santa Cruz, our kids have been getting out in the ocean. We've been doing a lot of surfing, but that's a separate topic. Last question for you.
And by the way, tell your swimmers to leave those sharks alone, if you would. I saw the YouTube with a couple of your athletes getting bumped by a shark. Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. And then I think it was a week or 2 ago, unfortunately there was a surfer that was killed by a shark, and it's
oh gosh, wow.
Yeah, this time of year it's very sharky, especially at the beaches. Most of our kids will stay within the city of Santa Cruz. It's a little bit safer there. Thank God that our swimmer who his paddleboard did get bit by a shark. Yeah, thankfully he's okay. He's fine. It was a blessing, and it's something that we got to be careful of, but at the same time you can't live in fear. So it's that fine line you have to walk.
It is, exactly. Well, I don't know that I'm not Californian, but I think you guys understand that better than I do. But that the beach and the surfing culture and the living in the water culture is one of the great benefits that coastal people have. You have to do it respectfully, though. I mean, there are other, you don't go places, you don't swim at dawn and dusk. Get out of the water during the feeding times. Like there's just smart ways to go about this.
Absolutely. And I learned to surf in Florida, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, Atlantic Beach, Florida. Florida's one of the sharkiest places in the
Oh,
world.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, Lifeguarded there, but it's yeah, you just have to be smart about it. You have to kind of read the signs. Sometimes you'll just get feelings. Hey, I'm not getting a good vibe. It's probably time to go in. Um, so those are you got to be use that intuition in the water. But all right, last question for you because I know you have to run. Where where are you going in the future? What's the future for David Marsh?
Mm. Well, my future got changed a lot because of the 2021 Olympics. So I'm certainly committed to my group I have out here that I'm training for the Olympic Games. And I'd done the college thing at Auburn, and at the end of that, I wanted to try to do a better job with professionals. So when I moved to Charlotte, that was that for 10 years. That was overseeing a big club team at Swim Mac. And we ended up becoming the number one team in the country during that window time. So I was very, very proud of that. At the same time, we developed a very successful professional group. Now that's back when Mark Schubert was a national team director at USA Swimming, and they were looking to have outside groups, sort of develop, Olympic athletes. That's not what they're doing now. They're really relying on college structures to really develop the athletes. But I do believe in that structure. That's why I'm out here in San Diego. I do believe that San Diego, California in general, but San Diego would be one of the great places to have a professional group. I intended on doing that at UC San Diego, but that didn't work out with the AD and the situation there. They still have a great coach there, a good friend of mine, Marco. It's a great option, but for pros, they weren't ready to sort of take that on as part of their mission at the university. So we've gone to a more of a private program. I'm developing relationships in San Diego, trying to grow those to where this is a place where we can really do something sustainable for the long haul out here in California to develop, Olympic level swimmers post the college. One of the challenges of college programs is that when pros stay around college programs, sometimes they aren't able to be the priority because the college coaches need to focus on their college teams as a priority because that's what they're getting paid to do. That's what the ADs are paying them to do, not paying them to coach pros. And so that's what we're doing out here right now. I don't know what it holds for me. I would say, one of the things I love about coaching right now is the full spectrum. I'm everything from literally learn to swim to Olympics is something that I fully enjoy. I found that when I was coaching college, because the intensity of college, the intensity of recruiting, I was only able to sort of stay in that area if I was going to win championships. And that's short course yards, which is very different than long course meters of the Olympics. So I was living in that and I thrived in that, but I wanted more. And I think in the opportunity to coach out here in California, everything from, an age group team all the way through Olympic medalist, I'm able to work that full spectrum. I would have probably hoped when I came out here, I could have aligned with a club team and not had to start a club team, but I'm glad I have been able to start a club team because I'm able to implement the sort of the curriculum that I believe that young kids should go through, which is technique, and then train the technique. I mean, it's not the other way around. It's not train, and every once in a while do a little technique. Because if you don't have technique by the time you're 14, 15 years old, if you don't have good technique that's going to give you a good trajectory, you're not going to have a trajectory. It's going to be a bit of a burnout. You might get lucky and just train through that, but that's what I believe, and I'm just trying to implement that. And I find probably my most fun, satisfying role at this point is also mentoring coaches around the country and mentoring programs. This year I helped with Mark Gangloff at University of North Carolina. It was his first year as a head coach, and I was able to sort of be involved in some of the development of how he's developing his team. And that's going to be a great program for young kids to go to in the future. And so I enjoy that. And then I'm a technical advisor for the nation of Israel. So that's actually, one of the things I really enjoy too is getting to think of, okay, Israel's never made a medal in the Olympic Games. How can I help Israel one day make a medal? And so we're working on that as sort of a side project. And the same time, coaching the program I do here. So Right now, I'm here. My wife and I are empty nesters. Until pandemic, we were empty nesters. Now we're not. But my daughter that was at Duke, just so you understand, and I know you understand this, she was on her way to having a great NCAA championship. She had not tapered or shaved all year, her senior year, training great, swam really fast at ACCs. And then, 5 days before the NCAAs, her NCAA meet was cut out. And I do believe she would have gone some smoking times. And but the good thing was, through that experience, she's also found new passion and new motivation to keep swimming. And she's going to move to Teach for America and start working in New Orleans next year for Teach for America. But she's going to keep swimming. And so I've got her signed up for the LA Current. She'll be with our professional team, and so we're that's sort of the next thing that we'll do this fall is put together the ISL teams, and not sure where we're going to compete yet, but it's either going to be Orlando, Japan, or Australia. So I'll be there for a month in October coaching 300. Well, I'll be with 350 of the world's best swimmers in one place, training, and it's probably somewhat like the NBA and Major League Baseball talking about doing that right now, is keeping things a little bit more quiet all together, and not having such big fan base considerations, and just doing some racing. So that's sort of what's on the horizon right now, and I'm sort of, to me, I take things a little bit at a time. My passion is really mentoring. My passion is really helping the athletes that I get the chance to work with, whether it be full-time or even part-time, to discover their full potential. And I've started, like I said, that Marsh Swim Academy, sort of, if people want to find more, look at coachmarsh.info. You can learn a little bit more there. And I'm trying to grow in that area too, trying to grow as a public speaker. Byron Davis in LA is helping me with some of those skills, and trying to diversify myself as a person that could do more for more people in the future, to sort of motivate them and help them to reach their full potential.
Wow. That's amazing. Continuous improvement for yourself, and always focusing on other people too. It's just really neat. I didn't even get to your transition between all the success you had at Auburn to running Swim Mac to just all the Olympic stuff. So
Well, next call we can do that.
Yeah, that's for a different day. Just thank you. Thank you very much for doing that.
Tell Jennifer I said hello, and thank you for having me on. And I'm very proud of the way you guys are going about it, you and your brother up there, and keep that club rocking and rolling, and impact kids like you are. I think you're doing the right thing up there. So lots of great things are going to happen for you guys.
Thanks. Once things open up, you have an open invite to come see us, and I'm a former San Diego guy. I love San Diego, so we'd love to come visit you too.
All right, come on down. We'll have you down here too.
All right, thanks, David.
Yeah. Bye. Thanks.